scripture today is from John 1, verses 43 through 51, and can be found on the back of the bulletin if you'd like to follow along. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him about whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus, son of Joseph from Nazareth." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." When Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him, he said of him, "Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael asked him, "Where did you get to know him?" Jesus answered, "I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you." Nathanael replied, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus answered, "Do you believe because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Very truly, I tell you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." This is God's good news for all of God's people. Thanks be to God.
Let's bow our heads in prayer. Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, we pray, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. You may have heard stories, and quite frankly, I'm not quite sure if this is real or not. I'm sure you've heard the story of a primitive tribe that has been introduced to the art of photography, and there's this idea that they are always a little unsure and sometimes frightful that the picture is going to take their soul. I don't know if you've ever heard that or not. I went looking for whether or not this was a real thing because I wondered, is it just an urban legend? And the internet is pretty, indecisive about whether or not this actually happens in some cultures, in some societies. I do know that I know people, and you probably know those folks as well, that are what we call camera shy. You just really hate to have their picture taken, and they say, "Oh, I take horrible pictures," and yada yada. I get that. That's just a thing. In today's age, we have what's called the CSI effect, and police departments, and especially the legal system and the judicial system, is just freaked out by the CSI effect because we expect facial recognition software to be able to take a picture from 3 miles away and take that blurry picture and feed it into, feed the picture into the software, and you automatically, the name and all of their background, including their blood type, pops up, okay? That's the CSI effect. Now, no, it doesn't work that way. You cannot get everything, it just doesn't work that way. That's why they call it the CSI effect, because we've been trained by watching way too much television that literally works that way. And in that sort of 21st century way, we're afraid that somehow that's going to steal our soul. We worry about our identity theft, and that's actually a real thing, obviously. We worry about that because, quite frankly, with a couple of numbers in your birth date, I can own you. That happens. Security breaches have happened in companies over time, over the last year or so, and exposed, quite frankly, most of us to having our information on the black web. It is a little bit like having your soul stolen, quite frankly. It's, everything that you own can wind up in somebody else's bank account. So I took that and this moment where, you know, we've got this piece of scripture, and I'm wondering about knowing each other and understanding of what happens between Nathaniel and Jesus, and quite frankly, I'm thinking that it's not the threatening moment of owning or losing everything that we own, or losing our soul, if that's, you know, how we feel about it. But there was another moment that involved a picture that came to mind. It was a mission trip that I took a number of years ago. In fact, 2 of them down to Nicaragua. And somebody said in the group that was helping us get ready for this that if anybody has a Polaroid camera to take along with it, and a bunch of the cartridges that go into the camera, if you're of an age to know what a Polaroid camera is, you know what happens. You take the picture, the camera spits out that little piece of paper, and you wait a minute or two, and the picture appears. It's a self-developing thing, wonderful technology, impossible to find today. But we took, somebody dug in their closet and found a couple of old Polaroid cameras, and we got our hands on some film, and we went to Nicaragua. And the kids loved it. They absolutely were delighted to have their picture taken. You know, no one had taken their picture like, you know, some of these kids ever. And I know today's technology, and you know, everybody's got cell phones now, and that's a little, but this was kind of before cell phones, and you know, certainly before selfie sticks. It had been a couple of years ago. But the kids loved these pictures. They'd gather around and they'd get as many kids in the frame as they possibly could, and they'd mug for the camera, and it was awesome. It was amazing. We ran into a couple of kids that had run into mission groups in the past that had done this thing, and they still had that tattered, beat-up old Polaroid picture of themselves in their back pocket. The lesson was not lost on us. That somebody that paid attention to these kids and treated them like human beings that were worthy of this amazing thing of actually having their picture taken and having that image made, that mattered to them. They loved it that somebody cared enough just to take their picture. It wasn't a moment when we were stealing their soul, we were affirming their worth. It was that moment in time when a simple Polaroid picture told them that someone paid enough attention to them. They took those images and they kept them. I would bet you that to this day, some of those pictures are still knocking around in the back pockets of kids now grown in Nicaragua. We want to be noticed. We want to be cared for. We want to be paid attention to. We want to be seen. There's an article back in 2014 in September in Psychology Today, a very simple experiment that a couple of grad students ran. And what they did was they had a piece of paper, just a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet that had a bunch of random letters typed out on it. And the task that they gave to their subjects that they were studying was to find the place where there were like 2 G's put together. And they had a number of those kinds of very simple sort of tasks that they were asking the people to do. They had a time thing. Timer went off. They were supposed to turn in their sheet, and then they'd be given further instructions. And the way this worked was that the people would come in, they sat down, they would mark where the 2 G's were or whatever else they were supposed to look. Fine, timer went off, they went to turn in their piece of paper, and you got one of 3 different responses. And here's where the psych stuff comes in. The first group was commended. Good job, great job, that was great. We've got a little more for you to do. Would you just go sit over there and we'll give you your next task in just a couple of minutes. And that was fun. They got a little affirmation, that was good. The second group wordlessly turned in their piece of paper. The person that was taking care of the experiment simply took the piece of paper, laid it face down on the desk and said, please sit down. The third group, the person that was running the test not only took the piece of paper, but turned around and dropped it into a shredder. So the question is, which group of those three do you think felt better about the experiment? The first one. The ones that received a little recognition. It's dirt simple experiment. We all know that that's probably what was going to happen, but it's nice to be able to say, yeah, we've measured this and can look at it and can understand it just a little bit better. Because in reading the experiment listed in Psychology Today, the word was for anybody that runs a business or manages people or has a volunteer group or whatever, is that recognition counts. People want to be recognized. People want to be paid attention to. It sounds so simple, but how often do we forget that? How often do we treat the people that we run into, that we deal with at the store, or just even in our own families, like they're not even there? That was an amazing little moment of epiphany for me at that moment when I stopped to think, there are times when, even in my dealings with Kim, my wife, I take her for granted. How many times have we just not seen even the person that is so close to us? We want to be seen. When we're broken, we want to be seen. When we're hurting, we want to be seen. And sometimes, when we're hurting, we want to kind of hide off a little bit. There was another story that I ran into in the Journal of Pastoral Care and Counseling. An article was written in 2016 or so. A hospital chaplain was coming into work one day, and the receptionist at the facility that she worked at said, "Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. We've got this individual. We just don't know what to do with him." And so she talked to the guy for just a couple of minutes, and the guy said, "I just don't know where I'm at. I know that I came in. I know that I had way too much to drink last night. I know that I'm okay right now. I feel all right, but I just don't know where I'm at." And the guy was obviously confused. And so the chaplain started to contact different parts of the hospital. "Can you take care of this guy? Can you see him?" Unfortunately, the emergency room had kind of seen him and sort of taken a pass on him because they figured, well, he was just blind enough drunk that he lost track of a day or two and he'll get over it. She talked with this man for a while, looked him straight in the eye and paid attention to him and cared for him and cared enough to listen to what he was trying to say. Eventually, she, good friends with the hospital administrator, she called the administrator, and the administrator came down, took time out of his day, came down, sat the guy down, looked him square in the face and said, "Tell me what's going on. Listen to his story." And he said, "Do you want to go back to the emergency room?" And the guy said, "No, I'm really okay." "No, seriously. There's something not going on right. There's something that's happening here. We need to get to the bottom of this. Would you mind if we went down to the emergency room?" The guy once again said, "No, I'm good. I just don't know where I'm at." "Are you sure you don't want to go down to the emergency room? Because I think we can take care of you." And the guy said, "Okay." Together, the administrator and the chaplain walked him down to the emergency room, and they talked with the staff down there, and they it obviously got through. I'm not beating up on the emergency room staff. They have a tough job. This guy just needed somebody to pay attention to him, to see him as a human being, to look past the behavior or maybe what he did last night or whatever, and treat him as a human being. And that's what he needed. He got into the system, he got the care that he needed. I'm wondering, how many times have we gone through days when we haven't been seen? How many times have we not seen those around us? How many times have we written somebody off because, well, they're just drunk, or they're just that, or they're just from that place? We need to be seen. Sometimes we act like we don't want to be seen because making ourselves vulnerable to that leaves us at risk. And so we do things like make excuses. No, that's okay, I'm doing fine. When in fact, we just truly need to be seen. We need somebody that looks past our junk, past our facade, past that defense that we put up. Somebody to care enough. And I wonder if that's what's happening here with Nathanael and Jesus. When you first read this moment, I love that line, can anything good come from there? And we've all got that there, we know, can anything good come from, there? Nathanael might be one of us. Hiding our real wounds behind a good offense. Now, Nathanael's was sarcasm. Your facade may vary. Mine does. In a simple observation, Jesus takes just a couple of words and recognizes what's going on in Nathanael. I love Jesus' response there. And here is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. Like, this is a guy that truly tells it like it is. Jesus recognizes that sarcasm and gets past it and actually sees Nathanael. It's a great little, I don't know if it feels like it's almost kind of a parlor trick where Jesus says, well, I saw you under the fig tree. And the inference that we have there is that Jesus was nowhere near the fig tree at the time. And in that moment, we've got this time where Nathanael, if we look at it real kind of on the surface, and we can say, okay, Jesus did this marvelous thing and he saw me from far away and that's why he's the Son of God. There's got to be more to it than that, don't you think? Can it be possible that Jesus looked at Nathanael square in the eye and paid attention to him? And saw into his heart? Can you imagine looking Jesus, the Christ, straight in the eye? And in that moment knowing that he knows you, warts and all, and still loves you, and still cherishes you. You truly are the Son of God, because you have seen me. You have paid attention to me. You know my heart, and you know my failings. And you love me anyway. Jesus sees a child of God. Jesus sees someone who might be one of his disciples. Our call to worship this morning was just a couple of lines out of the 139th Psalm. It was one of my past teacher's favorite pieces of Scripture. I want to read just a little bit more to it because this is how God sees us. Oh Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up, you discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path, and my lying down are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, oh Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot obtain it. Skipping down a little bit. For it was you who formed me, formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know very well. My frame is not hidden from you. When I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth, your eyes beheld my unformed substance. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See me if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Isn't that how we want to be seen? Isn't that how we want to be cherished? Back in the day, in a previous life, I used to teach caseworkers. And one of the things that I try to impress upon them is that if you look at someone straight in the eye, if you pay attention to what they're saying, and if you truly listen to what's going on in their lives, you will treat them in a way that no one has treated them since their mama did. At that time, I was dealing with caseworkers who were going to be dealing with usually young people in the military. And quite frankly, the military can be a little rough, especially on young Marines. And I told them, if you simply pay attention to that person and treat them like they're a human being, they're going to experience something with you that they normally don't experience in their day-to-day lives. You pay attention to them and treat them like a human being. See them as a person. And listen. It'll be a gift. And isn't that how we want God to see us? As a child of His, cherished and loved and cared for and worthy. Not because we're so good and so perfect, because we carry God's image within us. Our mission statement as the United Methodist Church is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. That means we're going to meet folks who don't look like disciples at all at first blush. They will be broken and sarcastic, angry and disinterested, and too young or too old or too rich or too poor or from the wrong place. And our job is to look past the facade, to see with Jesus' eyes. Every person that calls our church, every guest that walks in those doors, everyone we meet through our day-to-day life needs to be seen with God's eyes. Matthew 25, 40th verse, 25th chapter, the 40th verse says, "You have done this to the least of these, you have done it to me." We see the children of God around us every single day. Do not see them as the world sees them. See them as God sees them. Pay attention. Care as you and I would have others care for us. Notice, listen, see them. Love past the layers, because that's how we would hope Jesus sees us. Our challenge today is simply to see like Jesus. Let's bow our heads. Gracious and loving God, your grace gives us vision that we would not have otherwise. You have told us that we have been created in the image of perfection, and that we have not cared for that image well. Give us the vision, the sense, the understanding, the grace to see you present in one another, no matter how many layers of junk we have put in the way. Allow us to see you in each other and ourselves. In your Son's name we pray.